Welcome to Saints on Cinema. I'm Tim Wilde, and with me tonight is Josh Edlow, as always, as usual, as most of the time. And with us tonight, speaking of a very important and critical movie that came out this year, highly anticipated. We'll get to that in just a moment. The wonderful. Do you have a stage name, Jimmy?
No.
Jimmy. Jimmy Callaway from LA. You're in LA. Where are you at, Jimmy?
That's right. I live in glorious and cosmopolitan Van Nuys, California, here in the San Fernando
Van
Valley.
Nuys?
Van Nuys.
Van Nuys. See, I don't know. I'm just so.
It's cool. It's an industry term. Don't worry about it. You know.
It's an industry term. And you are a comedian. I've seen your bits.
Yeah.
I wish I could see it live, but that's not happening in the next year or so, I'm sure, for me at least.
Next time you're in Van Nuys, Tim. You can
yeah. Stop on by. There's plenty of room. I do have I've been doing Zoom comedy and stuff, so I don't have to leave the house.
I've seen your stuff on YouTube for sure. What's the name of your you work at a club, right? You MC or you run or manage? What is it that you do over, if you still do that?
In San Diego. I was like the day manager at a comedy club down there, and I was like house MC and stuff. But then I moved to LA. Not doing that now? No, I moved up to Los Angeles in 2017. So I quit that job. I still will work that club, just I don't go back to San Diego that much, obviously.
So you left San Diego and with a paying management, emceeing, entertainment job, rubbing shoulders with comedians that were down in all that stuff, to go up to LA just to be a professional comedian.
Right. And
you're able to pay your rent in LA. That means you're just amazing. You're like the next Dave Chappelle right there.
Yeah, let's go with that. That's a good narrative. It was mostly the shoulders. I wanted to just rub more shoulders, so I got into masseuse school up here, and I test pretty well, and so that's been the most of it. No, I'm not paying my rent doing comedy at all. I'm barely paying my rent, period. But I mean, I was starting to make more. I was like, before comedy, I was trying to be like a novelist, and before that, I was in a band and all this other stuff. So I was always trying to make some sort of creative career, and comedy's the only thing that's ever paid me anything. So,
well, as long as I've known you, as you know, from we were little kids, you were best friends with my brother. We were all spending a lot of time in each other's houses in our condos in El Cajon. And as long as I've known you, you've just had your ear to the ground in comic books and comedy, because I remember you making collages of like the Three Stooges and stuff like that. And a lot of the early bits of comedy I ever heard were from recordings that you had off of albums that you played, that you probably have vinyl of at this point.
Oh, yeah. Well, all three of us, I remember we were all super into, we were very into Eddie Murphy. And we used to listen to Bill Cosby a lot. Remember that before we knew any better? And like, I was like, that was also, it was 1990. So like the stand-up boom was still, it was everywhere. There was still like, I didn't, I used to crash over your guys' house like almost every weekend. And we would watch Comic Strip Live every Saturday night because it was like stand-up. I didn't know Saturday Night Live was still on. Like, I was just like, oh, I'd rather watch stand-up anyway. So there was so much of it that was the time I remember watching it the most.
Which is funny because all those times when you and my brother would stay up late, you guys are 3 years older than me. I did not I hated stand-up. I was just like, it was so boring. And, and probably because a lot of it was over my head, a lot of the material of those late 80s, early 90s, that little juncture right there for comedians. And I just thought it was so boring, and so I hated Three Stooges. That was like gimmicky and slapstick fun stuff, and that they're classic. And I had never had any exposure to the Three Stooges outside of your house.
I remember that very clearly, being the first one to show you guys the Three Stooges, because you both looked at me like I had brought tablets down from the mountain. What is
these are the things?
I remember this is so weird. I had not thought of this in years. I had taped it that weekend. It was showing, because that was when I was living in San Diego, but my family we owned our house in LA still.
Yeah.
So we would go back there every weekend, and one of the local channels up here would show Three Stooges so I would tape it, and then I brought it back to you. You guys have got to see this. And I put it in the VCR, and you weren't even up yet. it was just me and James, and James immediately was just like his jaw just dropped, and then you came downstairs, you gotta walk, and we rewound it. And then you went into the kitchen, and I was like, you better come back because you're going to miss where he puts his finger in the nose. And you came back in, and yeah, we were all three of us just rolling on the floor. I'd forgotten all about that. I didn't remember that you didn't like stand-up. Did you?
I like comedy, and you know, it wasn't even, I love Bill Cosby and all that. And when I moved here, I got more exposed to some other of my brother's friends. He always had the older friends that were into comedy because stand-up was more of a generational thing. I think just a little bit before. Josh, were you into stand-up when you were younger?
Oh yeah, my dad my dad was really into it. So all that, yeah, we watched all that. I remember on HBO they had Russell Simmons' Def Comedy Jam. We used to watch that, and it was, I should not have been watching that. 13, 14.
Well, we most certainly should not. But that was another good thing about being friends with the Cotton Brothers, is that your guys' mom didn't let us watch whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
So we didn't
we had cable.
That's the way,
great. Yeah.
That was the way it was.
Cable, but mom was out.
Yeah, so my dad, seeing the Saints on Cinema, my dad was not a member of the church and then converted, but he was still very rough around the edges. And so when it came to like media, I mean, we watched everything. In fact, we're here reviewing Coming to America. I watched as a young kid, I was probably 8 or 9 watching the original Coming to America. And then my kids were like, oh, it's on Prime, can we watch it? And I was like, absolutely not.
No. It's not as rough around the edges as you remember, though. Because I rewatched it again because of watching this one.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's definitely, it was more R-rated than the new one is, but it wasn't. Yeah. We used to watch Raw every morning.
Yeah.
And we, as children, should not have been watching Eddie Murphy Raw.
Well, I wanted to. Yeah, that's why I kind of wanted you in on this one, Jimmy. We've been talking about finding a good show for you to come join us on. But this one is perfect because I was in association with you around the time that Raw came in. Raw was like 89, right? It was
87.
87.
87, 89.
And that was like Eddie Murphy on his big incline after he'd already done a couple movies. He did Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours and a few other good big hits.
Yeah.
And everyone knew who Eddie Murphy was, and then Raw came out. And I remember Raw being so funny and just juicy, and I remember his impressions. I remember the stuff about Mr. T and Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby and talking about the house burger sandwich and stuff. Like, those are the things I remembered. And me going back and rewatching it, I didn't rewatch the Unrated for this. I just rewatched it about a month ago. And I had not seen it since I was like a teenager. And I was like, man, this stuff is dated. It doesn't hold up. Well. No. It's talking about politics, the womanizing thing, talking about sex and divorce, all that fun stuff, all that stuff. And it's not that those aren't topics that can be hit today. It's just Eddie Murphy was in it felt like a dark area of his career. Because I also watched for the first time this last year, what was his other big one where he had the purple suit?
Delirious.
And I did not think it was very funny. And I think Raw, I thought was funny, but because I remembered it as a kid. But when I went back and listened, like his hamburger story, he was mocking that. It was like, this is the jokes I told as a little kid. I was like, oh, he's like mocking it, and that's the story I thought was funny.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I was not in tune with his adult humor, even when I rewatched it just now or as a teenager. So all this stuff was just so hard for me. I love him as a performer. I never watched him on SNL. I don't like SNL.
No.
I know it's probably sacrilegious, but
we know that you don't. We know you don't like anything that's good, so that's fine.
It's a long poll to watch. It's a long watch to get maybe one good solid laugh out of me. I do like the current stuff, the political stuff, and the opening monologues. That's all I watch. But anyway, so I wanted to ask you to get a little context before we go into Coming to America. I love the movie as a kid, but with Eddie Murphy, you probably are a little more in touch with how his career kind of went down and how this reflects his coming back. Because I remember about a year and a half ago, everyone was talking about how excited they were that he was going to come back and host SNL, and that he was going to start going on tour, and he was going to start hitting up clubs to beef up again to do another special perhaps, and that was just, everyone was so ecstatic about it. But I gotta say, I watched him on a couple of just like talk shows or some things with Jerry Seinfeld and stuff like that, and he just seems so exhausted that he doesn't. He seems so tired, and that came out in this movie, and we'll get to that. But just I want to know what you feel about kind of his incline, and if he's in a decline still right now, or if he's just kind of getting warmed up, or how do you feel about Eddie Murphy? Just give us your backup.
I think I totally agree that Delirious and Raw, especially Delirious, but a lot of the material in Raw does not age well at all, and it's very tough to watch unless you're me. I don't know. Like I still watch Raw like every 6 months or so, and it's totally I love it because the material is difficult to listen to, but also I'm not a woman or a gay person.
Now, so are you saying that because of the topics or the way delivery was back in the day?
No, I'm talking about the subjects and like the subject matter itself. Because even he has said within the last few years that like a lot of that stuff was a much younger guy, right? He was 22 when he did Delirious. Yeah,
and he was like the hottest thing. Thing. He was living it up. Yeah. He had
an hour special on HBO at 22. I wouldn't want someone to have been writing down anything I was saying at the age of 22.
No, that's true. I am so grateful Facebook was not around when I was 18, 19.
That was a close one. Yeah, for sure.
Thank goodness.
It was bad enough that they had Facebook when I was 30.
Oh man, if YouTube was a thing when I was in high school, it would be a big problem. Yeah.
But the thing about his stand-up specifically, and what I see in Raw, and again, this is just for me, but he's like, as a technician, amazing. Like the way he builds a joke and the way he builds on that and then builds on that and the whole, like Delirious is hilarious, but it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Like Raw is structurally extremely impressive, and I think even when we were kids there was something about that I would like watch almost like, because that was an age when I was 12 was when I wanted to start doing stand-up, and it was another 25 years before I started, but I was thinking about it a lot. So yeah, so when I watch Raw now, that's what I'm mostly watching for, is like how he builds the whole.
I know what you're talking about, and I can't remember he was talking about that 50% thing about whatever with the divorce and all that stuff, and then it comes back in a big punchline at the end. It rolls back those points, and I love comedians that can do that. Speakers in general, or people speaking in church, things like that can really tie together their thoughts in a big ending. I admire that. Structurally, like you're talking about, that's brilliant. Dave Chappelle is a master of that. I love watching Dave Chappelle's.
So the way you talk about Eddie Murphy Raw, I feel the same way about Dave Chappelle Killing Them Softly. That's such a good special. But the thing that's interesting about Eddie Murphy is I recently saw an interview with him. I don't remember what channel it was on, but he said his plan was always to do Delirious, host SNL one more time, do this movie, and then do stand-up. But he said because of COVID, he hasn't been able to work on his stuff, and so when people start going back out, he plans on going out, and it is a plan to get back out and do another tour. So that's pretty interesting. But everything that I have heard, I guess, I don't know, I didn't see it, but I guess he at some point did a short stand-up routine at some award show, I think it was. It was just like a 5-minute thing, and Joe Rogan was talking about it, and he said how impressed he was that even after 20 or 25 years, he was
his Mark Twain Award acceptance, right? When he did the Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. And I've seen that.
Who else got this? Bill has one of these. Did y'all make Bill give his back? No, because I know there was a big outcry from people. They was trying to get Bill to give his trophies back. You know you f***ed up when they want you to give your trophies back. You want to give his trophy back too? He should do one show where he just come out and just talk crazy now. I would like to talk to some of the people who feel that I should give back Trophies! Just because you may have heard recently that I allegedly put the pill into people's chocolate. I wish somebody would come up to my house talking about give up the trophy because you put the pill into people's chocolate. You get up. Because I'm not giving back.
Yeah, but he said he was so impressed that he had not done it for 20 years and could put that together without having really even tried it anywhere, you know? And so, so
well,
he
was also
a master.
He was also like a real like ingenue. Like he started, he was like 15 or something like that. And he got an HBO special at 22 in the early 80s when that was way harder.
Yeah.
I mean, it was easier in certain ways, but I mean, yeah.
It's not like now where you have Netflix contracts that's just going to stream and however many hits, it's just bonus for them, but you're not getting paid as much. But for a big HBO special back then with a sold out show where they're doing like your show is pretty much a featurette behind the scenes, in the dressing room, all that stuff, all that hype. Much bigger.
all that Netflix stuff, like all this stuff as far as stand-up goes now, the fact that there are so many outlets for it is obviously good, but it's made quality control kind of naturally start to decline.
For the creators like yourself, I mean, anyone can, not anyone, but I mean, you know, people can get their name out there, and there's a lot of audience because there's a lot of mediums, there are a lot of you know, stream services and everything.
The pie is much bigger, but the slices are still kind of small. Yeah,
and you can get a really sucky bite right next to a delicious bite. But there's also a lot of variety and diversity, and there's a lot more women comics than anything. At least I've seen. I mean, there were back then. You know, a lot more. There's Asian comics, I mean, black comics have always been popular, especially through the '90s, and you know, they really came up. Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, all them. But you know, they started early. You know, all pioneered by people like Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and Cosby, and Anyway. But just get into the movie. Do you feel that he's a little exhausted? Both of you. I don't know if you've seen anything with him, Josh. Every time I've seen him on TV, I'm like, oh, I don't know if he's out of juice or if it's just dormant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think I know exactly what you're saying, or at least I think I do. But I didn't take that as him being exhausted. I think he's just older.
Yeah. I didn't get the sense that he's exhausted. I just
he's mellowing.
He's slowing down a little bit. That's all.
Okay.
I was actually really impressed with this movie. I thought that he actually looked pretty good, and I also thought that Lisa looks exactly the same.
Yeah,
she's really aged well. I was really surprised. I mean, it was interesting because when she came on, I was like, she doesn't look like she's aged at all. I mean, she looked exactly the same, and it was really impressive.
I wasn't as impressed with her.
Arsenio didn't really look too much older either.
No, dude, he doesn't age. I wasn't as impressed with her as I was Elizabeth Shue in Cobra Kai when she came back, but it was. She did look a little. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, she looked good. She sounded the same woman.
It was 30 years ago.
I get it. It's not a criticism. She's beautiful and everything. I'm just saying we've had a lot of.
Well, she'll be so relieved to hear that.
You know, she's one of our biggest followers.
No, but I thought that you know, I thought not only did she look great, but I thought she played the part very well.
She did seem in character. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I'd ever seen. Have you guys ever seen her in anything else? Because I can't say as I have.
Not that I can remember. Yeah.
No, I'd think to look it up, I guess.
But I mean, she still seemed like the same Lisa character.
Yeah.
You know, which I thought was really good considering. You know, there were some differences to Akeem, and I felt like he was a little bit different, not necessarily played as well, but she played it really well.
So she definitely had like an easier part to play too. Yeah.
Her character was just a feisty, you know, powerful woman, and she still played a feisty, powerful woman.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy. I mean, you could kind of break this down our usual 5 categories. We could start with the characters. First, before we get into it any further, though, we're talking about Coming to America 2. Just general impressions. I'll let you go first, Josh. Just how did you like? Did you like the movie?
Just so you know what the exact opposite thing you have to say is.
You want me to go first?
No. Here's the thing. I did not go into this movie expecting it to be as good as the first. So I did not expect it. Like I was at my gym the morning it came out, and they posted a thing. You know, they were talking about it, and they were saying, "Do you think that it's going to live up to the original?" And in my head, I was like, "There's no way. There's just no way." I mean, you know, first of all, sequels never live up to the original. Very, very rarely. It's very rare that they live up to it. And so it's even more rare.
But can they at least be a good enough sequel that it wasn't like an offensive betrayal, or as it said in this movie, a very meta comment. It's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's not the line, but that's what they're saying. They even address that in the movie, how current movies in America suck. Looking right at the camera, saying like, this
in itself is pretty hacky at this point. I think.
Well, but I gotta tell you though, I did not have really high expectations, and I did that on purpose. I purposely willed myself to not, because when Bill and Ted 3 came out, I had really high expectations and was very let down. Even though it was still a fun movie to watch, it was entertaining at times. I was a little let down. So this movie, I was not let down. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to watch. It was cool to see all the little things they did with the characters. I thought it was hilarious. They had a McDowell's restaurant in Zamunda with a McFlurby. I thought that was really funny. I loved seeing the guys from Mighty Sharp again. You know, none of them had aged at all. I loved it.
They did. It's very.
They were
subtle,
100 in 1988. Yeah.
I also loved how they brought back all the characters you loved from the movie, including Randy Watson and Sexual Chocolate. And yeah, it was corny and cheesy the way that they did it, but it was fine. I think it was a little heavy-handed with bringing in like Salt and Pepper and bringing in En Vogue and things like that. But I was just like, you know what? This is just a fun celebration movie of just celebrating, 30 years of this hilarious movie and bringing them all back for something silly. And by the end, I just was like, this is great. If it would have gone another 10 or 15 minutes, I'd been like, all right, wrap it up. But I think it was fun.
All right, Jimmy?
Yeah, I would mostly agree. Like, I think the consensus amongst my friends is like, my friends from like high school, we're all huge Eddie Murphy fans, so we were all like very excited for this movie. And they all they were like, yeah, it's good. My friend Fred said it was pretty much like a family-friendly version of the original, which I was like, that's a pretty decent way to put it. It's not obviously the exact same, but it was, that shift in tone made it where it was less a sequel and more like a high school reunion. Almost.
Yeah, that's
hey, remember?
That's a perfect way. It seemed like a reunion movie.
Yeah, and I was totally fine with it. I did the Salt and Pepper / En Vogue scene made me roll my eyes the hardest.
Yeah,
but that was early on. What really made me nervous was that it really, for whatever reason, had vibes of that big dance party scene in Matrix Reloaded. Like towards the beginning of that, and when I saw that in the theater, I was so excited for that movie. And then that scene in the movie, I went, "This movie's gonna suck." I was like, "Oh no!" So I was hoping that wouldn't be, and I didn't find that to be the case with Coming to America.
Oh, well, and Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes was by far my favorite addition.
So great
to the whole thing. I was really bummed that he hadn't been in the original after him being.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes, so good. And I also have to say, having Morgan Freeman there for a time was pretty funny.
Doing the narration of his life, the King's life,
yeah.
Like he was narrating. It was
of James Earl Jones's life.
Yeah.
And I love. Did you catch the thing where he called him? Was it that, or he called someone else was called the? Oh no, it was Wesley Snipes who was the inspiration for Mufasa. Even though, I thought that was pretty.
Well, let me just say, I've been giving a lot of credit to this movie, and as it's been going years of production and preparation with script approval and everything with Eddie Murphy and Arsenio. I understand both of them were collaborating on what they wanted to see. And I was like, Eddie Murphy is not hurting for money, and he is an artist, and he really cares about this project, and he cares about a lot of these things. That I was praising him that he wasn't going to let anything come through that he wasn't going to be very proud of, or he wasn't going to approve of for his content. And that being said, I had a lot of expectations that it wasn't be like, of course it wasn't be as perfect or as amazing or even classic as the original, but I thought it was going to be really good. And all the people, as they've been promoting it on talk shows for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, have been saying that, oh, if you like the first one, I think everyone's going to like this. But of course they got to say that because the guest is right there, well, they're not right there. They're on Zoom. But as I watched it, I was like, what you just said, Jimmy, if the first one was like this, I wouldn't have watched it again, first of all. And speaking as a sequel, what you were saying, Josh, I felt this was more like Ace Ventura 2, not just because of the Africa stuff, or like Bill and Ted 2, not even 3. I felt like it was a rushed plot, where instead of like a story that was unfolding, like the original Bill and Ted, the original or Coming to America, the original, whatever the other example I just gave was, that they were, Ace Ventura, they were as a story. You saw the character in their environment and loving and falling in love with these characters. But the sequels were all like, here's a scene with some gags, 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 moving through a story, very rushed. That's how this movie felt. And I don't agree that you can't write a good sequel that also has a story, even if it's not as good as the first. But that's how I felt this one was. I felt like it was just like gag, like set up for a punchline, move on to the next scene, set up for a punchline, move on to the next scene. And it was really frustrating because I just, like we all did, I just watched the first one, and I actually did let my 12-year-old son watch it with me. My 14-year-old son, my 12-year-old son wasn't interested. He got bored, just like little Tim would have at his age. No, I like Coming to America. But they liked it, and he was sat and was engaged. And as I was watching, I was like, this movie was a really good love story. It was a good comedy, and it was a good diversity story. It was a good story of an empowered black character back in the 80s, which was great. And I was like, this one moves it into a new genre of a freaking musical, because there were 24 songs in this stupid thing. I counted in the credits. I was like, this was every 5 minutes there was a new song, and it was either a song number or a dance routine or something on the radio, something from the first one. And they couldn't just like, let's just tell a story. No, it had to be cameo after gag after song after cameo after gag.
It was a high
after
school
song.
reunion.
And that's not yes, it is, but it's not it made it such a frustrating thing for me to watch, because I had been backing it this whole time, saying I believe in Eddie Murphy. He's an artist.
So I gotta say, you're right in one way, that because they had so many cameos and stuff, it did feel a little rushed. They didn't have as much time to do the plot. But I thought that the plot was very well done. I liked that they had, his son was very much just like Akeem, wanted to forge his own way. You saw Akeem's character as he morphed into, as he became the king, trying to work through this whole tradition and the law versus what this progressive
tradition versus cult,
which was a theme in the original. And you see Akeem wrestling with, now he's a king and following in his father's footsteps, but also this other thing. And then also this idea of a woman in power and, kind of getting rid of tradition and being more progressive, which I thought was good for women's empowerment.
Because they need a few movies here and there that show a woman in power. We don't get enough of those. I'm kidding. I was fine with that. And I love The Daughters. I thought it was awesome. My problem was with the other stuff you just praised, but I'll have my turn in a moment.
Well, I think that, so was it all rushed? It may be a little muddled, sure. But they had it all in there, and it tied in very well at the end. And all the cameos, like, I thought it was getting a little overblown when, every black, every famous black actor was in it. Like, it felt like all of them were.
Yeah.
I bet Dave Chappelle was pissed that he wasn't in the movie. You know, he's like, I wasn't. Why weren't I and Kevin Hart invited? You know, like, but
let me pause right there, Jimmy, or maybe you can help me. Recently, on Saturday Night Live, I think it was when Eddie was there. Was it when Eddie was on SNL's monologue that all the black performers came out and it was like a big deal? How many huge comedian or actors stepped out? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think that was like the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, it was a big one.
More recent, like, big anniversary.
It was him or Chappelle, I don't remember, but it was like a big event, and that reminded me what you're saying, Josh.
I think, yeah. Well, I think it was like 2015 would have been the 40th anniversary show, and I think that was the first time Eddie Murphy had come back for one of those. 2000,
that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was. Saturday Night Live started in 1975.
Murphy came in? Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay,
no.
Josh,
I meant that in 2015 he came back for one of the special anniversary shows, and it was the first time he had ever done that because he wasn't on Saturday Night Live when Lorne Michaels was running. He was in that brief period which Lorne Michaels doesn't count.
Right.
So
sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack us. Well, it's right here. 2019 December 21st. Eddie Murphy monologue. There's Chappelle and lined up. Yeah.
So
it doesn't say which anniversary. Sorry, go ahead, Josh. I was just saying that's how it felt. Like he's very spirited about this.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. I thought, I mean, it wasn't a great look. It's not.
You're saying it wasn't a great movie. That's what you're about to say. No,
it's not. I wouldn't say it was a great movie, but it was a fun movie, enjoyable. I'd watch it again. I thought it was funny. I thought there were funny parts. Like I said, I enjoy the characters. I loved the characters from the original. So it was fun to see them all show up and have, I thought if I were to compare sequels, in fact, I'd put it above Bill and Ted 3 by a long shot.
Oh, by a long shot. Well, never mind. It's parallel, I think.
Of course you do, because I said it by a long shot.
No, because I just said I compared to the second one, but I was like, it felt so like they were trying to tie together some story. Excuse me, I'm bumping my desk. They were just trying to put together some sloppy story just to have some narrative to tie together these skits.
That is what it is, though.
And but the first one wasn't. The first one was
because it wasn't
flavored on a story.
The first one wasn't a sequel to anything.
And on top of that, also, I gotta say, Leslie Jones was she was so good. She was so hilarious. She's good. Everything she did, it made me laugh so hard. Her and Tracy Morgan, man, Tracy Morgan was so good in that. I love those guys.
Let's jump into a couple of these characters. I want to come back to the categories. I want to come back to the story just a little bit, but before that, let's go into the characters. You just mentioned Leslie. I thought she was like obnoxious in the beginning when she was in the flashback. Can I just say the flashback scene was kind of funny, and at first I was a little thrown off because I thought they found like some old footage of him like walking through and stuff, and then with Arsenio, and I was like, whoa, they had some deleted footage that they used. That's clever. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is Disney airbrushing technique stuff. It's
barely very good though. It fooled you.
It was great, yeah. Because I thought it was legit until I saw the back of him when he went up to the bar. I was like, he's too short. That's not Arsenio. But it was really cool. I liked that scene. I liked how they did the tiebacks. And one other problem I had with this movie, it was an hour. It was almost 2 hours long, and there was a lot of footage from the original movie. I think that's a weakness in a sequel.
For sure. I would agree with that.
But that background was great, and then Leslie was there, and I was like, okay, I'm not a huge fan of hers. I just don't think she's that funny. She's always just a very exaggerated stereotype, especially in this. And I thought just the backflash scene, flash. That's the word. Flashback, because you don't want to back your flash. That's when you moon someone. Mm-hmm. Anyway. I thought that was it, and I was like, okay, that's enough. And then I realized she was like the entire movie all over the place. But I liked how they went back and they showed the long shot of Eddie with the she-girl with Arsenio. Was that here? Or was he with the... I can't remember who he was with, the twins. At the long shot, it was just showing him all awkward. The twins coming into the party at the end. I thought that was hilarious. When I was like, oh, it's them.
How did they get them?
And it cut back to Eddie Murphy and Arsenio. They just had that same.
Yeah.
I laughed at that. I was like, that stuff is like shoehorned, but I was like, that one worked. I laughed so hard at that.
Yeah, that's weird because that's what you were. It seems like what you were railing against.
It would if it's not tied together, but like that's what I'm saying. A couple of the show is funny, like you said, Josh. It is entertaining. I was expecting a better story like the first one, and you can do it with a little energy. And for how long they've been redoing the script, I expected something better. I had the same. Well, I felt the story in Bill and Ted 3 was at least a little more thought out, even though execution wasn't as great. But this one, I felt like execution was great, but the story was nothing.
Yeah, that's the thing that I didn't like about Bill and Ted 3 was I felt like the directors were just trying to turn everything on their head and they overthought it. They were like, oh, we're not going to let it be Bill and Ted that were the ones who did it. It'll be their kids. And oh, let's really explain how the time travel works. And oh, let's make it be that it was just a prophecy.
But in our review, we gave so much more praise to that part of the story that we wish they would have focused a little more on that part or showcased a little bit. But anyway.
Well, but in this movie, I think it was a little underthought, sure. But as Jimmy said, though, this was a movie about a reunion of characters, and that's what it came out to be. And I thought it was hilarious that Leslie Jones and her whole family were so excited for Randy Watson to do that. Like, so the barber was like, who was it? Is it who did she kept naming all these actors?
Try to guess, yeah.
And it's like nope. And they called Randy Wattens out and they're like, oh, they were
I forgot he was in there from the first trailer, and I was like, I was just as I was like, who is it? And even when you see the band members come out, I didn't click. And then suddenly
as soon as they said it, as soon as I saw the minister, I was like, okay, Randy Watson Sexual Chocolate is coming up, and I cannot wait.
And then it cuts to the old guys, and I was waiting for. I was like, the one guy's gonna be like, "Oh, that boy good." I was like, waiting for it, and then he started
dancing. I love that.
I thought they were the best. I laughed at both scenes with them, but this just goes back to the story. I'm sorry, the story where you have this love story with him and the girl, the hair. I don't remember her name. Like, first of all, they had one conversation the morning he woke up, the first day in the palace, which was like half an hour into the movie at least. And so we haven't even been introduced to her. And then he goes in, he has a longer scene with the bathers and his mother that he did with the barber, who he falls in love with after one more conversation at the next party. One conversation, and then the next time you see her, you're the one I want to marry. I was like, oh, come on. There was like, went, and this was an hour into it. I checked the time. An hour into it, they're on their first interaction that he's falling in love with her.
No one's accusing you of not tracking the time.
Lisa, in the first one, she was introduced the first night they were married. They went to the bar, had a lot of problems, and then the guy's like, go to this place, and this is where I'm going, and then he goes, and then he introduced Lisa, and you get to see him watching her on stage and watching her at the office, and you see him slowly clinging and falling in love with her, and then them having a relationship where she's starting to like him for different things. It wasn't just so instantaneous and stupid like this one was.
Well, Tim, you clearly don't believe in love at first sight.
Oh, come on. I did, because the first one was love at first sight.
I thought you were more of a romantic, Tim, but I guess not. You're just so pragmatic.
You can tell from all the Superman memorabilia.
You've been so hurt.
I'm in love with Superman.
Who hurt you, Tim? Wwho hurt you?
Lex Luthor, obviously. Let me ask you, though.
Tim. I just feel like the first one, because again, I just watched it. It's when he takes her out on that first date, they go dancing and everything. This is an hour and 20 minutes into it. All you have is the rainy night chase scene at the end of the movie left. And then it's like, you feel so good for when he finally gets that kiss and they have the line. He's like, "What about Daryl?" She's like, "I don't love Daryl, whatever." And he says, "I don't care about Daryl either, whatever." Mm-hmm. I just. Oh yeah, she says her sister. But I was just like, you're falling with these characters in this interaction. I was like, and it was good. And I'm sorry, I love Akeem in the first one. Like you said, Josh, he wasn't Akeem in this one. He was a different character. And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna buy just that it's 30 years later, he's matured, now he's the king. He was the king like in this movie. He became the king. He didn't feel like he was the same charismatic and fun-loving and naive and excitable character that he was before, the same character. And I know they try to write that into the story. Well, Eddie's pretty tired, so let's say that he was more like his father.
No, that's not what it is. He was naturally supposed to be a different character. He was supposed to be a character who's morphing into the king, who's trying to be more like his father, trying to follow a tradition, do all those things. And it wasn't until Lisa called him out and put him in his place that he realized that he needed to do what was right. That was the
10
way
minutes before the end of the movie. Boring.
Yeah. Boring.
And he spent a lot of time on camera. And the name of the movie is Coming to America. They were in America for about 15 minutes. The movie should have been called Coming to America 2 times because
there was no coming in this movie.
What?
I was just saying what you said.
I think it should have been called Coming to Zamunda. That's what the movie should have been called because
that actually would have been a better title.
Coming back.
Yeah,
Tim, what would be an example of a comedy sequel like this that is good?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look at my list.
Oh, well, I didn't mean to inconvenience you.
No, I'd have to. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know. We were talking about what's the other one?
Three Men and a Little Lady. Is that what you're going to put up against?
Is a good sequel.
Look who's
just
talking
looking at my shelf. Men in Black 2 is good.
I don't remember a single thing about Men in Black 2. And
I
saw
it wasn't great. It at least had a good story.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't remember a scene.
Night at the Museum 2. That was a good sequel.
Hold on. Are you seriously trying to make good comedy sequels? Night at the Museum 2?
Yeah, you're just going alphabetically.
Compared to the first one.
You're saying that movie is the pinnacle of comedic sequels.
No, your question was name some that are good. I'm just looking. I have K through P up here, and that's what I'm seeing.
You're right. Night at the Museum 2 is the one. The standard
National Treasure 2. National Treasure 2. I consider that a comedy.
Hilarious.
That's a fantastic movie. Are you mocking me, Jimmy?
Yep.
Borat 2 was better than this, and that was just as sloppily thrown together.
Yeah, I think Borat 2. Yeah, I would have more of your criticisms for Coming to America for Borat 2.
So, I just want to point out that Tim's ridiculousness just knows no bounds. Basically, he's saying that we need to compare Coming to America, the baseline by which we compare is Night at the Museum 2.
That's not what I said. That's you're trying to lawyer me, and that's not what I said.
Name good comedy sequels.
That I did not say that. All I said, you said find a good sequel. I'm staring here at Nutty Professor. There's a reason I don't own the second one.
Yeah, well, okay, let me be more specific then. What is a comedy sequel that has a storyline that works for you?
Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers was very good.
But the first one wasn't even that good.
I like them both.
Let me think about it.
You're going to compare Meet the Parents to Coming to America, the original?
No, you're... You guys are being unfair, because I think Coming to America blows every one of those movies I just said out of the park. Maybe for its own genre, National Treasures is similar. But of all those sequels, whatever the one I just said was better. I think.
What about Father? Okay, Father of the Bride 2. That's a good.
I haven't seen it.
I thought that was a good one. If you like that, more of a family comedy.
Whatever. I'm not going to keep scouring over. Let's just.
Okay, because what I'm trying to figure out is where it is that you like. What could they have done? What could they have done differently, really, to have made you
a better
like
narrative? The story. So we can talk about the story a little bit. I think that the first mistake they have is like they didn't give us any time to enjoy the characters in their environment. The first thing that happened. Remember the first one. You go over the Paramount Mountain, and then you flow behind, and you find the Zamunda. You go in, and it's like, happy birthday. It's like, oh, yes, it is my birthday today. You get to see him in his morning routine with some comedic music and some bounce to it. He's getting his teeth brushed. He does the bathing scene. He goes out and does his training. He goes to breakfast. You spend a good 10 minutes, at least, with him in his morning before the plot even gets started. This one, I swear, before the first 10 minutes, you already have the neighboring kingdom, whatever the kingdom was, coming in and threatening them. And it's like, you just jump through a very quick opening where he wakes up in bed with Lisa, goes right to his martial arts training with his daughters just for that line, so you have to show that the women are going to be empowered later on in the movie. And then right to, they didn't have breakfast. I can barely remember. Like, it was so, like, non-memorable that all there's a cut, because that's what it is. Cut, right to...
Someone call Eddie and complain. Excuse me, your family didn't have breakfast in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
That's not what I'm saying, and you know that.
It does sound a little bit like
what I'm saying is you didn't get any time to really explore and feel that these characters in their dynamic. And that's the same way it is with Ace Ventura 2. You jump right into him off on his mission. That's not how the first one went. You need some time to like set up your characters, to set up a story. This one, there was no setup. It jumps right to the military threat, and then jumped right to the airplane, jumped right into the barbershop, then right back to Zamunda, and then an hour there of Leslie walking around being crazy and annoying everyone, and then chop right back to America for 2 minutes, and then bam, right? But just to have your Randy Watson, right? And then yeah.
I didn't realize you were so upset.
Anyway, no, I just
Gremlins 2, fantastic sequel.
Gremlins 2, huh?
But because okay, what's the narrative in Gremlins 2 then, Tim?
Oh, I can tell you that.
Yeah. No. I don't want another 45 minutes.
No, okay, well, let me try to get out ahead of this then. There isn't really a narrative in Gremlins 2, the new batch. All there is let's take the Gremlins out of Kingston Falls and put them into New York.
And it was intriguing and interesting, and it was a fun way to come back to repeat the story. But there was actually a narrative to how they came back and what was going on.
It's a bad movie, dude. Gremlins 2 is not a good
stop
movie.
It. With
I
Glover,
love it. I love both those films. I love all of Joe Dante's movies, but Gremlins 2 is worse than Coming to America. I will go ahead and say that.
Oh, I would argue that. Anyway,
you don't get to know anybody new. You don't there's no character development in
this
Gremlins
one?
2. No, yes, in Gremlins 2.
The Donald Trump guy, what's his name? The
Clamp.
He's phenomenal. He's one of the most engaging, charismatic characters in film history. I would watch 100 movies of that character. He's so
personal friend of mine.
Are you serious? You know him?
No, he actually has come into my work though. He's very nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
His performance in that is fantastic.
Yeah, but that's not the narrative, Tim.
Yes, you're right.
It's a big part of it.
I just want to throw out,
and it's really more of a what's his name, Ted Turner character. But that was.
I was gonna say, hold on. I just want to make sure I got this clear. Tim is saying that Clamp from Gremlins 2 is one of the greatest characters
in comedic history on film.
In comedic history.
I would
Clamp, Gremlins 2, greatest character, comedic history.
I think he is a funny character to watch. He is hilarious. Let's talk about that another time.
That is not what you said. Does not have
anything to do with narrative either.
You said greatest.
I'm talking about the writing a story to get them into the similar predicament of the first one was better done in that one than it was in this one.
That is not what you said. You said
that isn't what you said.
Narrative
in comedic history.
Well, that character, yes.
This is why.
All right, let's get back.
Anything Tim, you can't.
Let's talk
anything
about.
Tim says he's ridiculous.
Let's go back to character. So, Akeem, I guess we'll disagree. You guys thought he was true to the mature version of Akeem. I thought he was just.
I think a lot of what you're saying is true, and it's relevant. It doesn't sound like you are having very much fun in general in your life, but that's not. I'm not here. It's not for me to say.
I laughed in this movie because let's talk about the barbershop. I thought they were on point and they were just as hilarious as they were the first time.
I don't agree with that.
You don't? I thought it was funny watching them.
I thought I enjoyed those scenes and I was happy to see those characters again, but I didn't think it was as funny as the first one.
I don't think the script was as funny. But part of it's because they had to mellow it down for
Yeah.
I mean, come
Which
on.
I
The line
also
where it says, where Akeem's like, "I'm sorry, you can't indiscriminately violate women as you please or whatever." Like something like that.
He's like, "Yeah, I'm old. I did all that stuff."
But that's the same. Like I was disappointed. I think in a similar way that you are, Tim, that it wasn't rated R, because that was something, especially when we were kids, that I liked about Eddie Murphy's comedy, was that it was profane.
Yeah. And I
didn't get pissed off. Like and I'm like, all right.
I don't feel like
I
never say that every movie has to be R to be better, but I do agree that part of the charm of the first one is the some of the language, because it's funny when he stops the taxi and the guy comes out and says, "You dumb," and then in this one they did the same joke without the line. It was like, that wasn't funny. That was fish out of water comedy, and it didn't fit. And you're at the end of the movie. It's too late to do fish out of water comedy.
Well, I think I gotta say I thought, I'm with Jimmy on this. I thought it was fun to see those characters, but I didn't think I would have expected more actual comedy out of them. There really wasn't. There weren't any new jokes. They weren't really talking about anything that was funny. Like their whole bit about boxing when
they were still talking about boxing. They were talking about boxing again
at the beginning,
but the bit that they did in the first movie where they're talking about Rocky Marciano versus Joe Louis and all that stuff, so hilarious. Funny, and it didn't seem. There just wasn't the same feel, and I don't think you necessarily needed the cussing for that in that they could have done it, but I didn't think it was as funny this time with them. I thought it was cool to see them, and I loved having the characters there. I was glad they were there. But it kind of felt a little bit flat for me.
I thought he had more energy playing the barber than he did playing Akeem, which. I mean, he does. That's a very hyped up character, but I thought I was like seeing the energy. I'm like, where's this energy for our main character? And that's what made me a little more frustrated with it. But I really think that I thought the script was fine. Again, dialogue's not usually as good. You can't just revolve and always have a golden script on every scene that's gonna come out. But I laughed in that sequence. I laughed when they were talking about white man came in, and then now they get this and this and this and all that. And then the second conversation we were talking about where they would have gotten married, that was a funny one. It was a funny scene where he was talking about the Chinese restaurant. The guy got sick from it. That was funny. I liked it. And then I loved as soon as they showed up at the party at the end. I was like, oh, they're there. That's awesome. But other than that, any of the recurring characters, Randy Watson wasn't. It's Randy, right? He's the priest.
Yeah. Randy Watson. No. He's not the priest. Randy Watson.
He's the singer.
Yeah.
Who's the priest?
I can't remember his name, but
anyway,
that was I was because he's one of my favorite characters. He might be my favorite character from the original.
In the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
But this one, he wasn't
in this one as I would have liked more of him. But I did like Arsenio's new character, the Baba Yaga character.
That was hilarious. It was Arsenio's dad, right? Or it was Sammy's dad.
I think it was. I don't even know if that character was related to anybody.
I thought he said something. I thought he called him son at one point. My favorite part about that was when Akeem starts strangling him, and you hear just quietly James Earl Jones go, "Just kill him, son."
Yeah.
Let's talk about James Earl Jones. Did you think he was good, on point?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he seemed a little like kind of what you guys were saying too. Is like after the events of the first movie, you think he would have mellowed out a little. He seemed kind of angrier than he did in the original. And also, I was kind of bummed that he wasn't in it as much as I would have liked. I would have liked him. He's not all over the first one either, but you know, they didn't.
He didn't seem as exhausted as he did in the last playing Darth Vader's voice in Rogue One.
He's 130 years old now, right? I mean, he's got to.
I didn't criticize.
But you know, and the thing is, though, is that's surprising that you don't think he was as tired, considering that he was playing on his deathbed.
Yeah, he was in bed the whole time.
I thought it was really funny.
And then standing up in his own casket.
I know, I love how he's like, let's have the funeral while I'm still alive.
Yeah, this is going to be a great party. Let's have it while I'm still alive.
It's the most narcissistic thing I've ever heard. He's like,
well, he's the king of a nation.
Yeah.
I don't know why he would be. It's weird to me that he would be such a big Salt and Pepper fan that they would reunite them.
See, all that stuff. That's when I started getting lost. I mean, I was just like, come on, the song, and I never appreciated this as a kid. But when the servant, I can't remember his name, Tafu or something like that, the servant to the king comes in. When he sings she's a queen or she's your queen. The lyrics to that song I never caught as a kid, but it was hilarious when I watched it with subtitles. And I was waiting for something good like that in this one. Then he gets up and starts singing at the other scene, and I was just like, oh, that was a disappointment because it was a known song. And and he still had those high notes. I thought that was really funny.
It's a reunion.
I thought it was a nice touch at the end in the credits to have John Legend sing that original song. That was really
he really belted that out too.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I love that. That's one of my favorite scenes of that movie is that. And I also love the cameo where Wesley Snipes comes in and he's like, my sister, you remember what you did to my sister? And it was his sister that was the one that he was supposed to marry, and she's still bouncing up barking like a dog.
Come on, that was dumb. I thought that was such a dumb gag.
I thought it was funny.
It was funny that she was there, and I thought that was a cute little, just a vendetta, you know? He's like, look what you did to my sister. But, like, that she came in hopping, and he still didn't stop her, and that's why she was still hopping. But it's like, she's not even under his kingdom. She was only doing that to marry.
And they never got married.
Yeah, it's like, why was this is so dumb? And I thought they were gonna do the same gag with where the son had the other betrothed girl who was freaking hot, by the way, have her when he said stand here, and then he never came back. I thought the next morning when the general guy came in that they were gonna pan over and there she's still standing there. I thought that's what they were gonna do, but for her to still be hopping, that was a dumb joke. And he even did the looking right at the camera when it showed her barking at the other patrons or whatever. I was just like, come on.
I thought
there's a point where you just gotta
I thought it was funny, and I thought it was funny how at the end he was like, Wesley Snipes comes up and was like, "Thanks for getting that dog thing off my sister, the dog curse off my sister." I thought it was funny.
And then
that did seem kind of mean. Why didn't he just do that 30 years ago?
Yeah, because it wouldn't be comedic timing that way. No, look,
it wasn't funny. You thought I didn't think that was funny. I can't believe you thought that was funny, but the Clamp character was not just comedic gold in Gremlins 2. Anyway,
I'm not saying it's not funny. I'm saying greatest in comedic history.
It's up there.
That is a bold statement.
I think Tim and I are always gonna.
Jimmy, just so you know, this is the same guy who told us that when he talks about Christmas movies that stand the test of time, it's like It's a Wonderful Life, Alf Christmas Special.
Now I'm being misquoted because I didn't like It's a Wonderful Life, remember?
That's right.
Yes, you're right. Bishop's Wife.
Alf
Bishop's Wife.
Well, I can tell you guys that when Gremlins 2, the new batch, hit the cinemas, Tim and Greg went and saw it, and then they came home and tried to spoil it for me and James, and I almost murdered Tim right there in front of everyone. Yeah, you guys are so excited. And then, like, you were trying to tell us jokes, and eventually I was like, hey, man, I haven't seen it yet. We didn't know what a spoiler alert was yet. I said, I haven't seen it yet. Quit trying to ruin the... And then he goes, okay, all right. But then, at one point... hey! And then he goes, and then at one point, the projector went out. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm listening. And then Gremlins came out. Oh, you just ruined that joke! You son of a...
Well, on behalf of 10-year-old me, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Too little, too late, my friend.
That was a famous Hulk Hogan scene.
He's still bitter about this. Even
now. I can't believe you remember that. I forgot all about it.
I forgot all about it until we started talking about it.
I do remember seeing that in the theater, though, because I thought the gargoyle bat gremlin was like the coolest thing, because that was like Batman in the 89 year. So
oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. And that was playing at the Krikorian, which was, do you remember that place?
Nope.
You don't remember the?
I don't remember.
That was where we saw a ton of movies, but it was in El Cajon, like up from the comic book store on Magnolia. It's a church now.
Yeah.
I just thought you might be interested in some of your hometown history. I guess.
I appreciate that. We can talk more about that because I want to hear. We need to get back together and talk about our movie history.
Yeah, that was a lot of it.
Separate conversation. Anyway, All right, let's get Josh back in the conversation. So let's talk about. We talked about the music.
We should ask Josh if he wants to even do that.
I'm still riveted at the fact that Tim thinks that Clamp is one of the greatest in comedic history.
This is now going to be a feature. We're going to come back and talk about this and examine that character and how hilarious and brilliant he is later on in another episode. And Josh is going to have to actually watch the movie. Jimmy, you can come back for this one, and we will talk about Tim's top 7 favorite things about Gremlins 2. That's what we're going to do. Anyway.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That'll get all the listeners, all the watchers watching.
Hey, it'll get this weight off my chest, and it'll get you to shut up. Any other characters? Arsenio, how about Semi? Did we like? I think Semi was great.
Semi was good. Yeah, I thought Arsenio was a really good. Was a good character.
I loved every time he was in a costume. I was like, they still got it. I thought their characters in this were what kept me hooked and engaged, not the story, and not Akeem. Disappointing because you take if Akeem was played boring in the first one, or at least not as funny as in his prime Eddie Murphy. I don't think the first one would have been as good. It was all his charm and you're following the character as he's falling in love, and the fish out of water stuff worked every minute. And the scene where he went back and he started mopping, I was like, okay, that's fine. But if you notice, I'm a professional. He's been mopping one spot, and they said he's been here for an hour. And you can see how dry the ground is around that one spot. I'm like, oh, come on, that's not. First of all, he's not mopping correctly, but whatever.
You're right. This narrative is garbage.
Okay, let's talk about the McDowells while we're talking about characters. First of all, I gotta say, Louis Anderson. I just watched. I can't remember if it was a commentary or what it was, but they were talking about how in the first one they were forced to have Louis Anderson in the movie. Is that right, Jimmy?
Yeah, I've heard that too.
On your head, because they had to have they want to have a white character.
The studio wanted them to have a white character.
Yeah, and they turned out they loved it, and he was kind of unknown at the time.
Well, I think the studio gave them a list of like 3 or 4 people, and they went with Louis. Arsenio and Eddie Murphy went with Louis because they knew him from stand-up.
Yeah, and when he came back into this one, I was just like, oh, he kind of made it. And then he starts discussing this Beyond Burger that they're doing, and the last line of his little spiel is he says like, so it's pretty much just grass. And it reminded me of his conversation the first time we see him or the second time you see him in the first movie when he stops them. And they're cleaning up, and he's like, "Look what he's like. I used to do the floors too, but now I'm washing lettuce. Someday I'll be on fries." He's all excited about this career trajectory. And he's like, a year or two, and I'll be assistant manager. That's when the big bucks come in. Now here he is working with a Beyond Burger, selling burgers that are essentially still lettuce.
But like, also, in Zamunda, he moved up the corporate ladder to.
I'm washing lettuce.
Was anyone else surprised that Louis Anderson is still alive? I was.
No.
Well, I am slightly, yeah.
He still hits up. You still see him bomb in on in shows once in a while, but
he's really. Did you guys not watch Baskets at all on FX? He is incredible. He plays Zach Galifianakis' mother, and he is perfect. No, he's so good. It's the best thing he's ever done.
I like Louis Anderson a lot, and he does a lot of like shows like equivalent shows now for like Hollywood Squares was back in the day, like kind of those kind of gimmicky or game shows. Anyway, I thought he was fun. The McDowells, did you I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I mean, I always thought the bit in the original was fine, but it wasn't like the funniest joke in the.
No, and it was a little more in your face. It's almost like that's all they remembered about the character. That every time he was on camera, he was talking about the McDonald's rivalry.
Yeah. That is more or less what he was doing.
In this one, but the first one he was
that's true.
There's a lot more story, but he was a lot more integral character. But anyway, I like seeing him. I'm glad he was there.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know, is the mom is dead. She was my favorite part, and I love when Lisa stops and or he talks about that. He or Lisa, one of them, stop and talk about his mother and how she was the greatest. Who says that she was the greatest king. Leader,
the greatest ruler.
That line, I love that because I agree. When she's the one that shuts up Joffrey in the first one, when she's like, "Then go to her, my son," that moment, and he's like, "Put a cork in it," or whatever she said. I can't remember what she says. that's great, and I'm glad they acknowledged her, because I thought she was a beautiful part of the first movie. And even from the beginning at the breakfast table, that we didn't even get a breakfast scene here, which is important to every sequel comedy.
It's really, yeah. It's really
if it doesn't have a breakfast scene, we might as well just not even talk about it.
Right.
Right.
What are we even doing? Not even a brunch. Not even a brunch.
Here we have been talking about this movie for an hour, and we should have even given it 5 minutes without a breakfast scene.
Oh man,
I know, right?
I'll tell you what.
Use the bathroom,
I'll tell you
guys.
what. That queen mother was no clamp. I'll tell you that.
That's true. He's got you there, Tim.
Yeah. It's true.
I mean, this sequel was no Gremlins 2. That's for sure.
You got me there. Let's start. What about Tracy Morgan? Did he work? I love Tracy Morgan.
Tracy Morgan. I thought he was hilarious. Yeah.
I love Tracy Morgan too. I don't know how much as long as we're getting hung up on characters. Like, his character didn't seem to have a whole lot to do.
No.
But
like
I was happy to see
have
him.
one more black comedian in here for that diversity.
That's fine.
He was good. I did like the line at the beginning when he's waiting for the job interview or whatever, and he's talking to the kid, and he's like, no, put on. Or what do you say? I wrote down. He says, like, don't use your white voice, and then he goes, present.
Present.
He goes in that Tracy Morgan look. I love that.
I love having Colin Jost in there too. Having Colin Jost to be the guy.
Yeah, if you need a smarmy white guy. Like,
yeah, being the white guy who's
Jost.
interviewing him. Yeah, he was pretty funny. So, yeah, I was really happy with the cast. I thought it was cool having everybody that they did have in those characters, and Wesley Snipes was just
really good.
You know, it's so crazy, man. I still think his stuff in White Man Can't Jump is just so good. Man,
I haven't even watched that since I saw it in the theater.
Oh man, that movie's great. Anyway,
I was gonna say I thought it was funny that they brought in Babar the elephant, even though that was like the worst CGI I've ever seen.
Really? Because that's funny that you say that, because you saw Gangs of New York, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh, have you not seen that?
Is there a big elephant running?
There's a big elephant, a big CGI elephant, but it's from 2002. So I remember when I saw it in the theater, I was like, could they have just gotten Dr. Seuss to draw over this? If Horton had heard a who through here. But so when I saw that CGI elephant, this one, I'm like, oh, it's come a long way in 18 years.
Well, I was like, why didn't they just get a real elephant? They had a real Babar as a kid was a real elephant. How hard is it to get an elephant in any city for probably $200 to come and walk across the field just for a minute?
Because they shot this in Atlanta. Okay,
next time I come to Utah, Tim, I'm going to pay $200. You better have an elephant.
Yeah.
Not to me. To the zoo. I'll bet you come to the studio, you say $200. All we want you to do is have your camera walk across on camera, and it'll be the famous Babar from Coming to America.
It got to be at least $1,000 to get an elephant.
Okay, well they could have spent. I bet you they paid whatever they paid the CGI artists to put that crap together. Definitely could have got you a live elephant to walk across the glass.
Next time I come to Utah, I'm bringing $400, and you better have 2 elephants ready for me.
If they paid the CGI artist $400, that would explain why it looked the way it did. All right. What about my other favorite gag was the "This is CNN," and it was James Earl Jones' voice. And then you have Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
Do we like? I like those.
I don't like Trevor Noah.
Really?
I don't think he's that funny.
I don't watch him, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I don't have much.
It was funny having him there, but I don't like him.
It was a fun cameo. I didn't. Yeah. He's not one I follow, but yeah, I thought the whole thing, and then the Semi, the rivalry with Semi and Tracy Jordan was pretty good. I thought that was kind of funny, even though it was all wrapped up magically off camera before the party, just like the rest of the plot.
Or is it?
You mean Tracy
Jordan? Tracy Jordan.
More, yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I get that. I had to think for a second before I remembered which was his real name.
Yeah, I watched 30 Rock a lot. Anyway, Anyway, let's wrap up. Final thoughts. I don't have anything more to say. Cinematography was a pretty. The lion looked good. I don't know. They probably spent more money on the lion than the elephant, so then just kick out and the elephant didn't even serve any purpose other than a really cheap, ugly cameo. Special effects were a fail. The plot and story to me was a fail. Apparently, Josh thinks this was the best written comedy ever. Sequel. The sound of the music just got obnoxious. I just got so annoyed every time there was a new song. And I'm sorry. Even the what's his name? Who's this? The band Randy
Watson and Sexual
Randy
Chocolate.
Watson.
Sexual Chocolate.
Even that song wasn't that good to me. I liked him singing the children.
It wasn't supposed to be good. They're not good. That's the joke.
I know, but it wasn't funny. They were funny in the first one. I was having a better time watching the people in the party in this one than his actual song. In the first one, his song was hilarious. And how passionate he is. There's one guy clapping. He's like, "Thank you very much." You know. Anyway, I like that, but I gotta say this about the party: they had so much intermingling between so many characters that had to take them weeks to film that party because all the makeup that they had to do for a full day to have Arsenio in this character and Eddie in this character and have them talking to each other. That was a lot of work that went into just a few of those gags, and I thought it was worthy of that time. I thought it was. I mean, it's not like their time is like under my approval or anything. They can take years to put together. I don't care, but I'm just saying that it paid off. That's what I'm saying. Whatever work they went into it was rewarding to me. I thought that end scene, even though for the story it was garbage and it was completely uneventful, and you had a stupid bullfight that solved the whole thing, having nothing to do with the romance and the back and forth from Coming to America 2 times. The name of the movie. Didn't mean anything. It was all stupid. But the party scene at the end was a lot of the fun cameos. I think that was enough. That I didn't need the other ones. But I don't know. It was okay. I'll say this. Well, I guess we can go to our final judgment. Does anyone have any final thoughts before we do our final rating, final judgment?
Well, okay. I don't think you can say Celestial because it's not even in the theater. So
we can say this. Okay. So Jimmy, what we do, we have the Celestial, Terrestrial, and Telestial glories. Celestial means go see it in the theaters, and I think it is playing here.
No.
So is this theater worthy, or is it buy it on DVD worthy? That's what we're gonna do now, or just watch it because it's streaming worthy, just when you get around to it.
If this were only playing, if we weren't in the apocalypse right now, I would go see it in the theater, and I would probably not. Like with this is the sort of sequel that if I were to say to somebody, "Oh, Coming to America is the sequel," and they're like, "I never saw the original," I go, "Oh, all right." Like I'm not gonna try to like, no, but you
don't
dive
in here.
And then but now I can say to people like that, I go, you shouldn't see it because my friend Tim really thought it was garbage.
Disappointed, yeah.
And that's frankly my favorite part of this movie is that it.
So your friends that haven't seen it, would you say if it was in the theaters, would you say go see it in the theater, or is it not worth it?
Unless they had seen, if you'd seen and liked the original, yes, then I would suggest. Even in your case, young Timothy.
I think
really?
what you would have to tell your friends is, my friend,
not you.
My friend Tim really thought it was garbage. I really think you should go see Gremlins 2. If you haven't yet.
That one is a theater experience because when the screen spoilers, Jimmy, when the screen goes out and you're there live in the theater, you're like, "Oh no!" And then Hulk Hogan stands up.
Yeah, you were. Oh, that was it. I was like, dude. I do remember specifically finally seeing it in the theater, and I go, man, if he had ruined that joke for me, I would have slit his throat.
Yeah, Jimmy or Josh, you should know Jimmy is a huge wrestling fan too, right? If I'm remembering
right? I used to be, yeah.
When we were kids, back in the 80s when it was good.
Yeah,
anyway. Because you introduced me to comprehension on what wrestling was. You bring over your bootleg videotaped matches, and that's where I learned what now I don't remember what it's called. The thing where they all run in every 30
Battle
seconds.
Royale.
That's it. Royal Rumble. Yeah. Anyway, okay, back to the movie.
That's such a big influence on your life, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
I've ruined someone else's life. That's good.
Yeah.
We all blame you for what we're dealing with.
Hey, dude, I'm into Marvel. I don't know where all this
Well, I'm just saying, you got me. Like, you influenced me, and now back then I probably only had my Batman figure, which I have right up there, and my superpower Superman. It's probably all I had. Well, now you've opened my. No, you had nothing to do with this.
We'll get you started on a mustache.
He's already started. Didn't you tell?
Yeah.
No, I thought it was the light.
Okay, so you would recommend people, if you've liked it, go. It's worth paying to see it in the theater. That's your
I had a good time seeing the movie, and I think others would. And if they didn't, I'd be like, that's all right.
That's all right. It's your $7. I didn't pay for your ticket. Josh, what about you?
I would say I would, out of loyalty to the franchise, have seen it in the theater, but I don't know if you have to see it in the theater necessarily.
You're saying because Eddie Murphy needs your $7?
No,
because we have a little thing called brand loyalty around here.
Yeah, I out of loyalty to the franchise.
I don't know anything about that.
I support movies. I support movies that I really love the franchises, even if I expect movies to be bad. And I would have enjoyed it. I would have not have felt ripped off by going to see it in the theater. I would definitely purchase it on Blu-ray or 4K or whatever.
So Celestial for you as well.
Yeah, I'd put it Celestial.
Wow. Well, you guys overrule me because I say this. I probably won't ever watch it again. Not because I'm like mad at it. It's just I'll never be like, oh, you know what movie I wouldn't mind watching? It'll never come up on a list on a boring day when I'm just like, just throw something on casually. Never again. Not out of spite. It just won't happen. I just know me. Same thing with Bill and Ted 3. I'll just never get around to ever caring to watch it again. I barely watched Bill and Ted 2.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't see the second one for a second time until the third one was almost out.
Are you serious?
I saw the second one in the theater, and then I watched the first one several times. Yeah. But anyway.
Gremlins 2, I watched that like every other weekend, honestly.
Well, I'm busy watching Eddie Murphy Raw every other week.
Greatest comedy in history. Greatest comedic character in history.
I didn't say the. I said one of the. Anyway, so I would give it Celestial. I really don't think it was. I would watch it if I hadn't seen it. I would watch it streaming. I did watch it stream. I'm just saying, coming upon it streaming, if it wasn't an automatically owned property by Amazon Prime, I would say don't even buy it on DVD. It's not worth it. I don't even want it for my collection. I don't care. I don't need it. It's not that I don't support it. I just don't. I felt let down. I felt bored. I mean, there was entertaining parts, with entertaining moments. I just didn't feel rewarded overall like the first one. Very delicious comedy.
Brilliant. I wonder how many of our subscribers will feel that same way about this episode. Be like, I didn't feel rewarded. I
think they'll throw it on a casual day.
All right. Well, I don't have much else to say. I have some notes and stuff, but I'll just. Oh, last thing I will say, I was disappointed that during the end credits they didn't chop the footage of the characters and say Eddie Murphy, or
yeah, I did. I was like, that was the there were outtakes.
Yeah, and what is that? How long is it been outtakes? Do that on the bonus features for people like Jimmy to watch on the DVD that Josh is gonna buy. Josh is going to buy it on DVD. Jimmy can go over to his house and watch it, and you guys can watch the bonus features. I just want to see the fun Asian drum music.
You've got my vote. Quit screaming at me.
Anyway, I was disappointed by that. And then they did cut to a bit with, and I didn't even get it, that little rhyme with the Jewish guy. Wait a minute, that guy. They I don't know if you guys watched to the very end. They did.
Oh, he's told a not very good joke.
I didn't even get the joke. The lion came and stood on the monkey's feet, and it was like a rhyme. And the monkey said, "Hey, get off my feet," or "You're standing on my feet," and like that was it. I was like, "What?"
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
It was as good as the soup joke.
Soup joke was better, yeah.
Fantastic. Anyway, and it's just funny because he's like stopping the credits to tell his joke, and it shows. Anyway. All right, I'll just say I was disappointed in the credits. After a long movie of disappointment, I was disappointed in the credits too. They couldn't even get that right.
Well, at least it was thorough.
Yeah, because like I say, in the first movie, it wasn't until those credits that I knew that was Eddie Murphy and Arsenio in those costumes, and that's I heard them talk about that on Jimmy Kimmel. They're saying a lot of people had no clue.
Yeah,
and they would walk around in costume on those days and talk to people and get phone numbers from like old people and stuff like that. Anyway, anything else you want to say, Josh, other than you can't wait to revisit Gremlins 2?
No, that's pretty much it. Talking about the movie that we came to talk about, Coming to America 2, I would recommend everybody watch it. If you like the first one, you would like the second one, other than Tim, who doesn't like anything that is good and boring. He just likes crapping everything that everybody likes. Ah, no, I don't like that. Let's talk about Gremlins 2. Let's talk about Superman. The Superman.
I have a whole episode of Superman coming tomorrow. Anyway. All right. Anything else you want to say, Jimmy?
Nope.
Any last minute digs at me?
No, I'm taking digs. I've been waiting 30 years to take digs at you. They'll hold.
All right. Well, Jimmy.
What else you want to say? You talked about most of it.
Nah. Anyway, well, Jimmy, anything you want to plug? You have your you have a YouTube channel. We mentioned that.
I do.
You talk every week, and you do your own theme music, your own editing, your own graphics.
Yeah. I'm a one-man production team.
Yeah, I watch it once in a while because you talk about independent comics that come out. I'll let you explain it, but I watched it here and there until I stopped buying some of those comics, and I was like, I would love to have Jimmy come on and talk about some more stuff that I'm more familiar with, but I do like some of the things we talked about. But go ahead and tell us about your channel.
Yeah, so every Wednesday I do a little comic book roundup called Wednesday I'm in Love, and I go to the comic shop every Wednesday, and then I come back and I show some of it to my phone, and then I put it on YouTube.
Filmed right there in your closet studio.
Yeah. It started out because I used to work for a store. I used to work for a comic shop, and so I would do that for them. And then I quit that job, and I was still like doing that part of it, so I kept it going.
It's fun. It's cool that you still go because we know the comic book industry is dying and suffering right now, not bleeding.
And I'm gonna make sure that I finish the job.
We're finishing digging this grave.
That's right. I want to throw the last shovelful of dirt onto it.
Right. I just gotta say, I do enjoy your content because I like that you have a lot of insight on the writers and other things they've written. You give a lot of praise to the creators behind comics. It's really cool that you do it and how you do it, and so yeah, my support. I subscribe. I don't always watch them because again, I'm not always familiar with their stuff, but I do like hearing more of your experience, and so that's why I'd love to talk to you more outside.
It's really more for me anyway.
No, I get it. Yeah. It's like this is more just for a chance for Josh and I to hash out our feelings about
yeah, you guys got a lot of stuff to work out.
Anyway, well, Jimmy, thanks for joining us, and we'll have you back sometime soon, hopefully.
This was fun. It was good to meet you, Josh. It's good to see you again, Tim.
Yeah, it's good.
Despite everything.
Good reminiscing about things that I don't remember that you do, because it's me.
Yeah.
I can't. We always say all the time that I can't follow plot at all in a movie, and it includes my own life. I can't.
Well, that's probably for the best. I think I would like to forget more of my own plot, frankly.
All right. Well, Jimmy Callaway, thanks for joining us. You can check out his channel if you are interested in comics. It's really fun stuff. I'll put the link in the comments below, which is Wednesday I'm in Love is what it's called officially, right? Yeah. I remember your theme song. So anyway, but thanks for watching Saints on Cinema. We'll catch you next time. And if you saw this movie and disagreed with my opinion,
which they did,
you're not going to say anything because no one's going to say that. They all agree with me. If you disagree with Josh and want to throw it in his face, you can put a comment below.
Nobody knows that.
Yeah. Anyway, you're such a drag. All right. Well, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time on Saints on Cinema.